as the saying goes, money on its own is neither good nor bad. It's what you do with it that makes it bad. And it's the same for social media. So we've invited attorney at law, Isat Buchanan, as we seek to explore the impact of social media on the criminal justice system. Good morning.
Morning, Dale. Morning,
How are
Hi.
you?
Morning, Azad. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great.
I think for many people, social media has maybe transformed the way they look at the criminal justice system.
Definitely.
We're getting more, it doesn't seem as something that you only hear about if you go to court. More information is coming out about trials, about the way they happen. Everybody's a lawyer because we all now know the law. Is that a good thing?
And it is good because justice is supposed to be there's supposed to be transparency in justice. And so one can appreciate that we are getting information in real time. The only downside to it is the what I would call the social commentary, and as you said, all the internet lawyers and their judgment. And to be honest, especially in the criminal justice system where you have jurors, they are heavily influenced by what they hear on social media, and that can be disadvantageous. But certainly the public being aware of what is going on within the justice system, it calls for the justice system to administer justice within the constitutional remit.
Let's go a little bit through the good elements. So Delia raised them. Let's start with maybe advocacy. Do you find that social media advocacy has caused the criminal justice system to perhaps move a little faster or to be more accountable to the people? What role have those voices played in that space with regard to cases that we hear about that we can't believe all the voices rise up? Do you see material change being made and inspired by the voices of social media that become a movement in that space?
Yes, in fact, I can speak to one case currently in process, which would be the Jody and Ferron case. You would have seen that it was because of the media and the public at large why parties involved would have responded quickly, and certainly it affected the way that they certainly included the family, which is the victim in the current situation. Similarly, and this is just my opinion, the recent release of Mr. George Williams, one can attribute that to public outcry, public shock, and certainly there was no opportunity for justice to drag its feet in light of what was most egregious in terms of the breach of his constitutional rights. So certainly in this space, I can say in 2020, modern Jamaica, that the public and the social space certainly gives accountability to all parties.
Does it also help individuals with understanding their rights? Because so much happens on social media. I think more people are understanding the law. And if something happens, them know that, listen, go call a lawyer. This is what you need to do. If the police stop you, this is what is supposed to happen. So I think it's also helped in us understanding our rights, no, sir?
It has certainly respectfully introduced the public to the fact and concept that they have rights. Formally, the outcry, not that it has changed much, is we want justice. Now you hear the change. The common man is saying, me I go for my lawyer and me I go get my justice. Only too wicked. That type of cry. Everybody knows that even if they don't know what it is, they say, something wrong. Now get somebody on the case.
Yeah, but we're looking at movements like Justice for Susan Bogle and,
yes, hashtags.
Yes. All right, so we've spoken about advocacy, we've spoken about rights. Do you find any other pros of social media on the criminal justice system before we flip it now and start to look at some of the bad things?
Yes, the pros about it is that people are consumed by the realities of the space. I would like to think that a lot of the things that we are seeing in real time would have always been the status quo, and it's changing because of the social media. So sometimes I believe that the media, even main media, is on the scene and reporting to social media faster than even the police can respond, or the state actors, or even sometimes lawyers become aware of situations in real time as it occurs.
Yeah, but that should also pose a problem for you as an attorney, because sometimes there may be things that you probably wouldn't want to be public knowledge, or maybe have the defense or the prosecution have the information, and social media just picks it up, runs with it, so everything is there. Doesn't it make it a little bit more difficult?
So I will say this: there are situations like with personal injury claims and civil litigation where the information in the public space can certainly damage a litigant. But in the criminal space, I will say this, and even as a defense attorney, I am a human rights attorney. So the concept is all for justice for me is always finding the truth.
Okay.
So while it is that you may have a client who has done wrong and social media has put it into space, what happens in court is that the public needs to be aware that it is the evidence that the court has jurisdiction to rule on in the end of the matter. So that if it, even where there is a video where it looks very inflammatory is the word I'm going to use, it may very well be that a judge may say that it's a breach of the person's rights and it's not admissible. So
Okay.
it's not put in the space in terms of to find a verdict. But I believe that though it is negative, the justice should be about seeking the truth. And even persons, if you are guilty, there is space where you can make a plea and you plead guilty and you ask for forgiveness. That should certainly be the concept of justice. So I don't think that attorneys should be afraid that the media is there and social media is having the opportunity to see what is going, so people can properly assess. So all that hearsay can be thrown out because we're actually seeing what is happening in real time.
But I said, what about the space as a hotbed of criminal activity itself? Because, that's also a thing.
Yes. So I will say this. You see, with everything there is balance. So one has what the conversation is to progress to know is how to protect yourself in the social space, and it's about accountability. Because a lot of the things that happen on social media generally, it's surface. People can be. It's a virtual space, so people can pretend. The idea that we would want social media to transcend into what is a real space. So just I see you on TV, I'm no different in the real world. We want that so that we can uncover a lot of the mask and a lot of the pretense. And so people should learn that in the social space, we are to protect ourselves. And then the social media bullying is really the most important aspect of it, because people are very mean, too quick to judgment. And that is something that as we are getting information, we should sit back a bit and give people the opportunity, as we are witnessing what is going on, for things to ventilate or come out. Because we're using the space to find the truth, and we're using the space to get knowledge, not to tear down people, and certainly not to build up people who are not deserving of it,
And
because
it's not even tear down alone, because based on what you post, you goodly end up in the same courtroom because you have put out something with slanderous or libelous.
something, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
Yeah.
persons are to be aware that defamation is real.
Correct. That's the point.
I'm not going political, but even in the space where the minister would have made a chuckle. I'm speaking on this is that I'm not defending anybody, but context is everything, and one ought to understand both sides. There's no justification. There was an apology, but context is everything. And one slip of the tongue in the social space should never demoralize or reduce the contribution of somebody, especially like Mr. Chuck, when it comes to nation building. Not defending, I'm just saying that with social media, it's today something is posted, it's sensationalized, and the hard work of somebody is just erased by one post. And that post could be inaccurately received, or it might be defamatory. And again, just like how the common man knows that me want a lawyer, you'd be surprised of the calls that I get that somebody said something and me want to sue them. So defamation is real, and we should be responsible as we have this space.
Absolutely.
And sensitive that persons can be psychologically harmed and traumatized by comments. There are family members, and in the real space, the people we have to interact with in our social lives that we have to account to. And it's not all the time we can say, I don't answer to nobody and it's just me and my God. The reality, when we move from the social space, is that we must be able to live comfortably and without feeling like we are being removed, people private their account or cancel their account, and that's because of bullying. We must be able to responsibly ensure that we don't harm people, even with our comments. Be compassionate, show love, and comment with respect, because some of it is really awful, and people have families. So while I can take the criticisms and the bullying because it doesn't affect me, it may not work well for the people who love me or for another person put in the same situation. And yes, life is, we only have one life.
We hear you, Isaac. We hear you loud and clear. You're taking us down another road, actually, that could form a whole other interview. So maybe we'll have you back to talk about that. Thank you for your views this morning. Isaac Buchanan, attorney at law, with us this morning, discussing the impact of social media on criminal justice.
Yeah, social media and dating. Are you stalking or are you just researching?
I think if you have to ask that question.
We'll discuss dating and relationship in the digital age in our Girl Talk segment after the break. We'll soon come.
If you have to ask.